What's going on YouTube? Greg Ferris back here at Ferris for Fitness, and today I'm going to be doing another Q&A video. I have a question here from Adrian I got on my YouTube channel, and it's a question regarding cardio, so I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it's pretty lengthy. But he pretty much wanted to get my recommendations on cardio while bulking. He talked about how he's kind of bulking, gaining phase, trying to gain muscle during the winter time, and he's wondering how much cardio should he do, if he should do any cardio, what type of cardio, things like that. So I figured I'd make this be a good opportunity to kind of make my opinion kind of thing on cardio and kind of relate it to Adrian's goals as far as cardio during a mass gaining phase, a muscle gaining phase, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to break down the pros and cons, because like everything else, there are going to be some pros and cons with cardio, and then just kind of talk about my recommendations for him in general without having too much specific information, right? So the number one pro that I can really think about when talking about cardiovascular work is assuming you're having a bodybuilding type of nature. If you're a powerlifter, that's kind of different, but bodybuilding type of nature, increased body composition, things like that, is just maintain your conditioning and also just general health. Obviously, if you're keeping some cardio in, you're generally going to be able to stay leaner during those gaining phases, and that's going to be beneficial to you because you can actually have longer gaining phases. You don't want to be the person who's, bulking for 2 months, cutting for 2 months, bulking for 2 months, cutting for 2 months, and then a year goes by and you look pretty much the same, made very little strength gains because you really can't keep anything consistent, and you kind of just end up spinning your wheels. So taking things slower with a caloric surplus also, and again, it all comes down to calories in, calories out. Having some extra cardio can really help that surplus be minimal so you can bulk for a longer period, okay? The second pro I have is recovery. Probably going to be more lower body than upper body, but again, just having some, because most cardiovascular work is lower body in nature, ellipticals, walking, running, stairmaster, things like that. The improved blood flow to those muscles is going to help a little bit with recovery. Also, you have to take into consideration how much you're doing, which is going to be a con here in a minute. So it is going to enhance recovery somewhat if you do it in a educational, in a smart way, in a sense. The third pro I have is appetite, and this can kind of be a pro or con, because some of the quote-unquote hard gainers out there who, I can't eat enough, I have no appetite, things like that, sometimes doing a little bit of cardiovascular work can actually increase their appetite so they can get in a bigger surplus to actually make some gains. So say for instance, if you did 1,000 calories of cardio a week, of course that would be 1,000 calories that are taken away from your surplus, but it may increase your appetite so that you can eat 2,000 more calories than you would. Overall, you have a net gain of 1,000 calories, if that makes sense. So that can go either way. Sometimes it does nothing for your appetite. That's really an individual thing, but for a lot of people I see that as a pro. And then again, I'll talk about some cons real quick. Too much cardio is obviously going to be a bad thing. Again, if your goal is building muscle, building strength, cardiovascular really isn't going to do much for you outside of what I talked about, recovery. And again, it also kind of helps with conditioning, but that's not really building muscle, that's just staying lean. So definitely finding the right balance, and I'll talk about that in my recommendations for you. And then again, time is always going to be a con. If you're an incredibly busy person and things like that, it may not be very advantageous to you to be spending 30 minutes on a treadmill 5-6 times a week. Other things you're doing, things like that. So you have to take into consideration how much time you have. That also comes into play with how intense your cardio should be. So as far as my recommendation goes, real quick, what I do and what I have some of my clients do, generally, whether their goal is weight loss, fat loss, or muscle gain, whatever, they're usually on a weekly caloric expenditure for cardio. So what that means is, I'll have a person say their weight loss goal, or say they have a weight loss goal, they have their macros, things like that. They're supposed to get 2,000 calories throughout the week from cardio. And I usually have a minimum amount of days. So say if it's, a greater amount, 2,000 calories is a pretty decent amount. Say 2,000 calories at least 4 days. So what that means is, if you're really, really busy, you don't have to do it. Monday's really busy for you. You don't have to do it on Mondays. You don't have to do it on Tuesdays, etc. You just have to make sure you're getting that 2,000 calories spread out throughout the week, and again at least 4 days. Because I wouldn't want someone to do, they're on 2,000 calories of cardio and they do, 2 hours of cardio one day and none the rest of the week. Hypothetically, that might make sense from a mathematical standpoint, but I'd rather have it spread out a little bit. So it's kind of a good recommendation as far as balancing things out, but also what I think would be semi-optimal, right? So my recommendation for you during a mass gain phase is definitely to kind of get out of the zone of time, because some days you can really ramp up the intensity, some days you can't. That's where counting the calories you burn from cardio is going to be a little bit better than just counting the time. So you can use a heart rate monitor. You can even use like the calorie counters on the machines. How accurate those are is up to debate, but type in your height, weight, make it as accurate as you can. As long as you're consistent, that's really what matters, right? So find a kind of cardio caloric expenditure for you and your goal. So maybe just start out with a really arbitrary number like 1,000 calories a week, and I would say that's at least like 3 days a week. So that'd be like a session of 300 calories, and 400 calories equals your 1,000, right? And see how that works with your macro goals. Again, with the cons, I really think that it takes quite a bit of cardio to really start hindering your recovery. So like 1,000 calories of cardio I don't think is a big deal, and you really can, it's really nice to do that, because once you start going into a cutting phase, you kind of already know, okay, well, I was bulking, I was at 500 calories of cardio a week, and you can just kind of slightly increase that while you're decreasing your macros and things like that. So counting your cardio intake is going to be really important. So that's what I'd recommend for you, Adrian, is just kind of see how your weight is. Hopefully you're counting your macros as well, and then use cardio as another tool to kind of help you with the smaller surplus, because that smaller surplus can let you bulk for a longer period of time. And again, I've talked about this in other videos, a huge surplus of like for me, 3,500 calories or something isn't going to help me build strength any more than 300, 400, 500 calorie surplus, which is still definitely enough for you to make gains, right? You just have to be patient, which is a lot of people don't want to do in this game, but it's a big part of it. It's just being patient, having a small surplus, and again, it's going to be advantageous to you to bulk for a longer period of time, and then do like little mini cuts so you can stay lean. Most people are more motivated to train when they're lean and things like that. So that's my recommendation for you. And I wanted us to kind of summarize this, but this is going to be highly, highly individual. Some people can get shredded with like very little cardio. Some people need to have a decent amount of cardio just to stay not 15% body fat in the off season. So that's why it's definitely advantageous to you to find out how much cardio you need. And again, it has to do with your outside activity. If you work a 9 to 5 and you sit down like this all day and you're very, very inactive outside of the gym, it's probably going to be smart for you to do some cardio. If you work construction, if you're a busybody, if you're always doing things, you're probably burning a lot of calories, or more calories than a desk job would throughout the course of the day. So when you think about cardio as far as tracking it, it's really just going to be another way to expend calories. So if you're already having a really active lifestyle, you probably don't need that much. Another consideration to take in is how you train. Again, he's talking about body composition. He's trying to gain muscle, but if you typically train more of a powerlifting style, where it's 5 sets of 5, 6 sets of 4, things like that, you're taking 3-4 minutes in between sets. Your heart rate's not really up. You're not really breaking a sweat. It's probably going to be nice for you to do some cardio, whether it's HIIT or list. I'm not going to get into that, but you're probably not burning very many calories during your training session, so it'd probably be smart for you to do some outside cardio. Contrast to that, if you train more of a bodybuilder style, 60 to 90 seconds in between sets, heart rate's really going, you're sweating profusely, you're burning quite a bit of calories, you perform circuit training, things like that, you probably don't need to do a lot of cardio because that's kind of cardiovascular in nature as well. So there's a million different variables out there that it's hard to kind of summarize in one video, but my recommendation for you is to hopefully you're kind of your macros, and hopefully you're kind of aiming for that 2 to 3 pound, again depending how lean you are, but hopefully you're kind of aiming for that 2 to 3 pound gain per month. That's what I recommend for people, and use cardio as a tool just to help control that surplus. So if you can't eat enough to get into surplus, maybe having a little more cardio, like I said, can help you get into a surplus by increasing your appetite. And again, it'll kind of help if you're that kind of person that has an incredible appetite. Maybe doing a little bit of cardio can kind of help you so you can eat a little bit more and still stay in a slight surplus instead of a huge one and end up gaining a whole bunch of unnecessary fat. So Adrian, if I were you, I would start off at about 1,000 calories of cardio, which is a pretty moderate amount. That's probably about 20 minutes 3 times a week, depending on your intensity. That's another good thing about counting the calories is some days I'm just not really feeling up to it, and I just want to go on a slow little, elliptical, whatever, and I can get my calories in. Other days I'm super busy, but I'm feeling really good, so I can bust them out in 15-20 minutes. So how you decide to do that intensity is going to be kind of up to you, up to your recovery and things like that. But pretty quickly, hopefully I answered your question, Adrian, as far as how I think cardio fits in with your mass gain goals and whatnot. So if anyone else has any questions, I'm trying to get to all these Q&As as quickly as I can. There's quite a few backed up, but I actually try to get some informative stuff, not just my opinion is this kind of a thing. So those are kind of my thoughts on how you should use cardio while bulking. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this video. Like the page, like my Facebook page, like the video, all that stuff. If you're enjoying my content, guys, I'll have more information coming soon.